a busy weekend in Greater West Bloomfield, and that all really began on Friday night. An unfortunate situation. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office spending Friday night on Sylvan Lake searching for a missing boater. Unfortunately, their search ended in tragedy, as yet another drowning happened, this time close to home in the city of Sylvan Lake. Phil Ross, a Sylvan Lake resident who also happens to be one of our Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications commissioners, made the initial reports to law enforcement on that night. Here's what he had to report.
This boat was just drifting. Didn't look like anybody was at the controls or even in the boat. It went by us. We pulled out, circled the boat, and saw that there indeed was nobody in the boat. The keys were in it, and it was drifting toward the shore. Our neighbor boat tied up to it, pulled it away from the shore. We called the sheriff. I met the sheriff and directed him out to where we were, and now there's a big search and rescue going on.
That was as of Friday night, just after this was initially reported to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, and our team arrived on site. At that point, shortly after, first responders arrived on scene, including Sheriff Michael Bouchard and his Marine team, which leads these sorts of incidents in our communities in particular. They began their search for the missing boater, but that was a difficult task given very limited information and nobody else out there with him. So this is kind of how that search got underway from the sheriff himself.
Well, one of the biggest challenges in situations like this is we don't have a point of entry. Typically somebody else is boating or they're with the person and they see them go in the water. That gives us a relative starting point. Here we don't have that. All we have was a drifting boat, but it could have drifted from completely the opposite side of the lake. So we're starting in this area. We have divers in the water. We have 5 boats with sonar scanning right now. We have drones up and helicopters looking. But if we don't get anything in this vicinity, then we're going to have to put the whole lake in play.
Keep in mind that was as of Friday night, shortly after this investigation began. As the sheriff said, that's exactly what they did. They had to start from a starting point as close as they could get to where that boat was. That began at the community center, scouring for any evidence of any foul play or maybe where this person may have gone if they exited the boat. Any evidence of that, talking to nearby residents, talking to other boaters to get more information and trying to piece that story of how this individual went missing back as far as possible. Here was what the status was as of 8:30 p.m. on Friday night during that investigation.
So at about 2:30 or thereabouts, a boater who's a regular on this lake was seen pulling out in his boat to go out on the lake. At shortly after 5:15-ish, the boat was seen by other boaters drifting. They were able to capture the boat, bring it back to shore. Nothing in it as it relates to a person. It was empty, but it has his personal effects: keys, cell phone, wallet. So obviously that's troubling information. We've checked his house 3 times, checked the path between. We have his car. We have all his personal effects. The other thing we can't find and don't know where it is his dog. Oftentimes he goes boating with his dog. Dog's not at home, not in the boat. So, if somebody sees the dog come up or swim out of the lake or something, they may think it's a lost dog. It obviously very much might be connected to this. We'd like them to call us if we haven't found the dog by the time you air this. But that's kind of the synopsis at this point.
As of now, we have not heard any word on the status of that dog. As you saw in that clip, we had that number. You can scroll back on civiccentertv.com, on our YouTube page, and on Facebook to get that again. We'll give it again later on in this as well. But about 90 minutes after Sheriff Bouchard had said those words to our Dave Scott from our team, the body of Louis William Petra was found about 200 feet from the shoreline of Sylvan Lake in about 5 feet of water. That's per the preliminary report. The cause of death, at least initially, is being determined as a drowning. That makes this the 11th drowning of the 2024 calendar year here in Oakland County. Sheriff Bouchard explained sort of why his office believes we're seeing more of these drownings in 2024 than we have seen in years past.
Yeah, I mean, last year was tragic. Obviously, anyone lost on the water is tragedy, but it was nowhere near what we've had this summer. We've already had 10 drownings this year on our waterways in Oakland County, so this year's been an especially tough one. Sometimes when you have extremely hot days or a hot summer, more people go to the water, and sometimes those people are less experienced on the water, less experienced boaters, less experienced swimmers, and so we've had a number of swimming drownings this year from swimmers that were not strong swimmers. The last one, we had a young man dive in to rescue someone. He was able to rescue that person, and then he drowned. So it's kind of a combination of factors this year.
An hours-long search on Sylvan Lake from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office and partners from other organizations in nearby counties and other communities also in our local area supporting that investigation that unfortunately ended in tragedy with the body being found on Sylvan Lake. That individual boater who often would go out on Sylvan Lake with his dog and enjoy the waters, enjoy the peace and tranquility this time of the year, had an unfortunate accident out there. Per a report from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, he was not wearing a life vest at the time that he went into the water. He wasn't found, at least, with the life vest. That's what we have as of now. Following that hours-long investigation and unfortunately that tragic ending, there is some advice that the Oakland County Sheriff has for those in the community that will continue to go out onto Sylvan Lake and Cass Lake, Orchard Lake, and so many others across our community and beyond as we wrap up this summer.
Well, obviously, if you're boating alone, there's a much higher chance that if something happens, no one may see it and begin to have, a point of beginning search or a point of rescue, or in this case, potentially a recovery. So it's a good idea to tell people where you're going and have the right equipment on your boat. You know, there's different things that can give you geospatial tags, things like that, but at least tell someone, here's my plan, here's my intended route, I'm leaving the dock, you call somebody, and I'm headed to this point A, point B. Then at least someone else knows your travel route. And we suggest that whether it's on the water, whether it's out ice fishing, whether it's going in the woods hunting. You know, if you're going to go out alone to enjoy great Michigan outdoors, share the information with someone.
Always good advice to do that as you're going out and about, especially if you're going alone. If you're out with someone else, you got the benefit of the buddy system, but you can kind of employ that in your day-to-day life. If you're going to be out and about for a while, hey, look, I'm going to go to the mall and do some shopping. I'm going to be there for a few hours. If you don't hear from me in a few hours, if I'm not back home, give me a call or I'll check in with you. And if I don't check in with you, you can't get a hold of me. That's when you can start to have some concerns. That especially has to be the case when you're out on the water and if you're going to be out there alone, taking, of course, those safety precautions yourself, at least to have somebody keeping aware of you being out there. And that's actually what Dave Scott, our reporter on scene on Friday night, had done with me. He was planning on going up north as we begin our week, take a breather on Mackinac Island, and contacted me this morning saying, in keeping with the sheriff's comments, and it's 5 a.m. when I'm sending you this. I'm heading out on Lake Michigan alone, and I'm letting you know my plans. I'll have a report in with you via text prior to when you go on the air for the Splash Live. And if you don't hear from me by 10 a.m., it might be a good idea to get in contact with the Emmett County Sheriff and let them know my plans. I'm departing Charlevoix at 6 o'clock. I should arrive on Mackinac Island around 9 o'clock. And then go from there about my day. And as it stood 2 minutes before the show, I got a ding on my phone. It was Dave Scott texting me he had arrived on Mackinac Island. So that advice works. It keeps you safe and it helps out in our community. Now, in the meantime, going back to what happened on Sylvan Lake, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office did release a statement over the weekend. This is directly from their office. The body of an 84-year-old Sylvan Lake man was recovered Friday night after his unattended boat was found drifting in the lake hours earlier. The body of Louis William Petra was discovered at about 10 p.m. in approximately 5 feet of water, 200 feet from the shore. He was not wearing a life jacket. The sheriff in this statement said, quote, in an already extremely tragic summer, the loss of another person while they were enjoying the water is very sad. While we don't know what happened in this case yet, we encourage people, if they are not strong swimmers or they are alone in the water, to consider using a flotation device. Again, this is the 11th drowning in Oakland County just this year so far. In addition, the Sheriff's Office releasing another part of their statement saying that their divers responded to the scene and were assisted by dive groups from several other communities, including Chesterfield Township Public Safety, the Macomb County Sheriff's Office, as well as Lapeer, Livingston, Genesee, and Wayne County Sheriff's Departments as well, also assisting on this search and rescue effort. For more information on this and updates as they come in, you can follow the Oakland County Sheriff's Office on Facebook at OCSO Michigan. We will also do our best to keep in contact with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office and give you updates.